Okay, now next up I want to give you a tour of the editor's interface. So what I'll do is I'm going to single click on barndetail.jpg right here, this fella right here, and then go ahead and double click on him, and that'll actually open him up inside the editor portion of Photoshop Elements. And obviously here in this view there's a whole heck of a lot to look at as well. So let's get started here. As I had mentioned previously, we have an options bar running right across the top of the interface, and there's all kinds of different options that we have available. We can create a new document, there's launch bridge and save and so on. We can reset our panels, undo and redo, of course. And then there's sort of a secondary options bar, if you will, this fella right here. And I'm going to come back to him because he's kind of interesting, and you'll notice that he'll change every once in a while. So we'll talk about him in just a moment. But I want to talk about probably the most important area of the Photoshop Elements editor interface, and that's your toolbox here over on the left hand side. So think of this guy as a traditional toolbox. This is where all your goodies are stored, and as you can see there's a whole pile of tools here. Now what you can do is, if you want to know a tool's name, just hover over top of them and you'll get a little message that contains the tool's name. So here's the move tool, or I have the rectangular marquee tool, the horizontal type tool, and so on and so on and so on. Now if you're brand new to Photoshop Elements, don't get overwhelmed, because a lot of these tools you probably won't use every single day. You might use a handful of them, and then other tools you might never use at all. Now, what I should say as well is, you may have eyeballed this already, some tools have a tiny black triangle down in their bottom corner there. That means that if you click and hold your mouse, you'll get what's called a tool flyout, and there's more tools hidden underneath there. For example, I clicked and held down on the quick selection tool, so now I have the quick selection tool and something else called the selection brush tool available. Now, I'm going to go and show you a couple more. I'm going to click and hold on the type tool, and I'll get a flyout for the type tool as well. There they are there, if you're interested in those guys. So you might want to take a moment and sort of explore through your toolbox and see what you have available. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this, because every once in a while people say, well, I don't want this tool on anymore. How do I shut the tool off, or how do I get off of the tool? Well, you can't. You're always going to be on a tool, right? So what I would suggest is that you choose one of two tools once you're done whatever it is you're working on. Either the hand tool or the move tool. Myself, I always go back to the move tool. I think of the move tool as sort of the neutral tool. So let's say, for example, I was going to type out some text, right? I would grab the type tool, I'd type out my text, I'd get it all formatted the way I want, and then when I'm done, I'd go back to the move tool. In fact, it's one of those things I don't even think about it anymore. I just grab the move tool whenever I'm done. So for yourself, you could use the move tool, or as I say, the hand tool. Now, let me mention something else here. I had talked about the options bar running across the top of the screen here. Did you notice as you were selecting different tools inside the toolbox that the options bar changes to offer up different commands and different settings and different options and so on? Well, that's really his deal. So if you select a tool, then look up on your options bar and you can set settings for your selected tool. That's the idea here. Okay, good stuff. The other thing that we have as well inside the Photoshop Elements interface is our palettes. And you'll notice your palettes over on the right-hand side. So here I have effects and I have layers. And then down at the bottom, I also have another palette called the project bin. Now, it's a little bit difficult to describe exactly what these guys are. They're sort of extra work areas, and each palette really focuses on one aspect of your image. For example, special effects. Now, if you want, you can head up to your window menu all the way up at the top, and you'll find your full laundry list of all of your palettes here inside Photoshop. For example, maybe what I'll do is I'll open up my Navigator palette, and he opens up on screen way down in the bottom right corner, and he'll let me move around or navigate around inside my image. I'll show you how that guy works in just a moment. So once again, sort of like your toolbox, don't get overwhelmed at all of your palettes here. We'll be using a lot of these too during our time here together. Some palettes you'll use all the time, other palettes you won't use at all. Other palettes tend to come and go. Alright, so that's kind of the first part anyway of our Photoshop Elements editor tour, and I'm going to show you a couple of extra things in just a moment.